And that's going to bring us to our most compelling game, or at least one of the most compelling games, and it's certainly a great Monday night game. Atlanta, coming off a tough loss into Dallas, heads to New Orleans to take on the undefeated Saints.
And the Saints coming off that huge comeback win in Miami with Drew Brees and co. really showing that they can hang there and win the tough games and not just the blowout games. I think the Falcons underperformed last week against the Cowboys, and going to New Orleans, it has the setup that it could be a New Orleans route, but I like the Falcons to keep it close. I don't know how close.
Yeah. I mean, ever since Matt Ryan got there last year, there's been an immediate improvement on the team, both defensively and offensively, but they haven't been very consistent on the road. And they've been a great home team, but not very good on the road. New Orleans at home is great. They're great anywhere they play. I mean, that passing game, there's no one that can slow them down. Buffalo and the Jets slowed them down for a time, but they eventually broke loose as the game wore on, just like in the Miami game. I mean, it's going to be really difficult for Atlanta to go in there and get a win.
And Drew Brees, I think, what can you say? I think he's reached the echelon of Manning. I think now you say Manning, Brady, Brees when you talk top-tier quarterbacks there. I know you may disagree. He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring yet, but with his yards, with the way he's played, and now this isn't really new. I mean, he succeeded in San Diego, had to leave because of an injury that didn't really cost him much, and he came back and has performed in New Orleans. And you watch, there's not a throw that he can't make.
Yeah, I agree. I think from the talent standpoint, he does belong to be in that company. But you do need to win a ring to really be considered one of the best, in my opinion. But then again, that would just be contradicting myself because I have to say Dan Marino. He never won one, and I have him as maybe the greatest quarterback of all time.
And this offense is definitely about the most exciting thing happening in the NFL.
Absolutely. I mean, when they played the Giants, I thought that was going to be great, the ultimate defense against the greatest offense, and it just turned out to be a blowout.
And you have to think if the Saints win this game, they run away with the division from here on out.
Yeah, 3-game lead midway through.
If Atlanta can pull one off, we're going to have a tight race on our hands.
A tight race, because then they'd be one game back, and they get to play New Orleans again later at home, where they play even better. So this is a key game for that NFC South division, considering the rest of the division is pretty much handled with. So it's one of these two.
I'm still liking the Saints, though.
Me too. It's tough to pick against them. That offense is so explosive. Even if you hold them down for most of the game, they're still going to put up 27 points, and their defense, surprisingly, has been very good this season.
Let's do our quick hits, the rest of the games this week. What about Texans playing the Bills?
The Bills, they might have won 2 straight games, but I think Houston has finally figured it out, and I like Houston with that passing game to continue it and go to 5-3.
I'm going to take the upset special of the week, take the Bills over the Jekyll and Hyde Texans. Andre Johnson's got a bruised lung. He may be in, he may be out, but I think the Texans forget to show up against the Bills.
We shall find out. That brings us to Cleveland traveling to Chicago, coming off that horrible defeat to Cincinnati.
Well, I think playing the Seahawks is a good remedy.
The Browns.
Oh, they're playing the Browns. The Browns equally a good remedy.
If not better, that's probably a better remedy.
The question should maybe be how many passes will the Browns complete? 2 or 3?
Yeah, I know. We can put the over-under at about 5. Will they complete more than 5 passes or under 5 passes? And if you go under, I mean, you might be in the favor there.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bears there.
I am taking the Bears as well.
The Seahawks, Cowboys.
That's a really tough game, even though Dallas has looked pretty good the last few weeks, especially at home.
The Seahawks.
But
depending on the week.
Yeah, going into the season, Seattle was one of my dark horse teams. I thought with Hasselbeck healthy, they were going to do really well. Brought in Houshmandzadeh, great passing offense. Thought Julius Jones would do well. None of that has come to fruition. Hasselbeck's hurt again. You never know what you're going to get. I guess I have to take Dallas at home.
I'm gonna say no Romo and take the Seahawks and the revenge of Julius Jones. Take it back to the Cowboys.
Hey, I can see it happening. That's going to bring us to where I have my upset special. I think St. Louis is going to get off the schneid.
The toilet bowl of the week.
Rams-Lions. Rams-Lions combined 1-13 or 1-12
Rams.
I'm going to take the Rams. I think Steven Jackson quietly has 550 yards rushing or so this season. He's having a great year. Detroit might be without Stafford, also possibly without Calvin Johnson. I think St. Louis is going to do enough. Regardless of how many passes they might complete, I think Steven Jackson will be able to make a difference in that game.
I would say probably the Rams' best chance to win a game. I don't think they're going to do it. I'd say even if Stafford and Johnson sit, like you said, Steven Jackson's very productive, but I think he stops producing at about midfield. And that's when the punts usually start. I look for a Lions roll at home. after a bye week, even lacking their quarterback.
I don't know if Detroit is capable of rolling, but if they are, this would be the game that they do it. That's for sure.
Now, how about the Niners versus the Colts? The Niners going into Indy to play the undefeated Colts and Peyton Manning. The Niners look pretty good with Alex Smith in. Almost pulled one out last week.
Yep. I mean, their offense certainly. Frank Gore is finally getting healthy. Alex Smith looked really good once he came in the game at halftime.
And Michael Crabtree, 5 catches for
56
yards.
Yeah, he had a solid first game for to start his career. You got to like San Fran. It's just that they happened to run into Indianapolis this week.
Peyton Manning could teach clinics to about 28 of the other NFL quarterbacks at the moment on how to handle a game. You watch
especially
Manning,
how to handle a solid defense and how to be able to read them. I know San Fran, they're a solid club. They have a great defensive scheme. They also have a great head coach who's turned everything around, Mike Singletary. But it's just not their week. Unfortunately, they're going to fall to the train for
We'll take the Colts by a couple touchdowns.
And now, maybe if it's not the toilet bowl, it's got to be the kitchen sink of the week. Jacksonville, they're going to travel to Tennessee. You think Tennessee gets their first win this week?
See, I don't. I think Jacksonville's a little underrated. Jacksonville, if you recall, really took it to Tennessee in week 1, I believe. 350 yards passing, and the Titans right now are struggling. Word on the street is Vince Young will be starting this week, which I don't think that's been good news since the NCAA championship game.
Yeah.
And the Jaguars, I think, are quietly and actually a much improved team this year from where they were last year. They beat the Texans, they beat the Jaguars. I think the big test will be to see if they can actually go back and put it on the Titans again.
It's possible. I mean, you could call them an improved team. In a way, I almost look at they are what they are, but only because last year was a disappointing year. They had gone through a 4-year stretch where they were, in the AFC, one of the better teams year in, year out. Almost knocked out New England in that playoff game when New England was undefeated. I mean, they looked pretty good, and then suddenly they just dropped the ball. But MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, has challenged his team this year. A couple weeks ago, he called them all out, and they're stepping up. They have a great running game. Garrard can get the job done at times. I think Jacksonville will be able to exploit that pass defense of Tennessee and take care of business.
You know what? I'm going to take the Titans in an upset there. Jeff Fisher knows the Jaguars. They play, and they're coming off a bye week. I'll give Jeff Fisher one more week, and if not, look for some changes in Tennessee.
You got to make some. You lost 59-0 a couple weeks ago. Some heads got to roll.
Now the Raiders-Chargers. The Chargers still 3-3 alive in the AFC playoff race, but their first game against the Raiders was close, and the Raiders, while they're we don't even need to talk about how horrible they are, have a penchant for pulling out the lucky game here and there. Do you think they can pull it off against the Chargers this week and end their playoff?
I think this game matters a little bit too much for San Diego. Richard Seymour, the DN from Oakland, after winning a couple weeks ago against Philly, said, hey, we're going to make the playoffs, and then they came out and got murdered by the Jets and a rookie quarterback at home. It's hard to believe they really have any bite to their bark. I think San Diego just has a little bit too much for them.
But I think San Diego will take that in a blowout.
Yeah.
And last but not least, the Panthers-Cardinals. Now the Cardinals,
maybe the biggest disappointing team in the NFL this year. They go from 12-4 to 2-4 to start their season. The Panthers.
Well, I think the Cardinals are outperforming a lot of teams' expectations. With their big win over the Giants this week, they went to the Super Bowl last year, but I think a lot of people still did not pick them to return there and really look like some of the class of the NFC at this point.
They certainly do.
I mean, until the Panthers find a quarterback, I think they don't have a shot.
Yeah,
I haven't looked through their schedule.
At this point, I mean, in this game, Carolina leads the NFL against the pass, which is quite surprising. Most people would never guess that. But them going against that Arizona run attack, where Arizona's #1 against the run, D'Angelo's probably going to have not as great as game.
Puts the ball in the hands of Jake Delhomme.
Which means 3-4 picks, end of game.
Yeah, I think the main stat line here is who will throw more touchdowns for the Cardinals, Kurt Warner and Jake Delhomme.
Yeah, that's a toss-up. In that game, if that goes the way we think it might, that pretty much wraps up the NFC West, because we have San Fran losing, we have Seattle losing, Arizona has a 3-game lead on everyone. That pretty much ends it.
Yeah, unless the 49ers can pull some magic against the Colts.
Yeah.
I think that might be a runaway division.
Yep, and it looks like it. All right, well, that's it for week 8, and I'll wrap up here in This Week in the NFL. We look forward to you joining us every week, and have a good night.